Hey guys, welcome back to Evelyn and Peter. I have a new design for you today that I am very excited about. If you're familiar with the Happy at Home hoodie, then you might recognize this design because it's very similar. So this is what it looks like. It's kind of like the sister design to the Happy at Home hoodie. So it's short sleeve instead of long sleeve. It's also a lot shorter. The Happy at Home hoodie was very long, very oversized, and had long sleeves, but this one is shorter. It's still a bit oversized. It kind of has like a boxy shape to it, so it doesn't cling to you anywhere. I know people like their hoodies to be like a little bit baggy and comfy, so that's in this pattern. It also has the side slits here, and if you don't want the side slits, you can just easily sew those up as well when you're seaming the side. So yeah, the short sleeves, it's shorter, and I also use a different yarn for it, so it's kind of like the summer lighter version of the Happy at Home hoodie. I used Oh Baby Organic Cotton by Lion Brand, and this is just a fine weight of yarn, so it's a weight of 2 instead of a weight of 3 like I used for the Happy at Home hoodie. And then I used a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. I used the color tan for mine, and then I'll have all of the exact yardage and skeins that you need for your size is in my written pattern. So I know I always stress this in every video. Make sure you get on my blog. I'll link it below in the description, and you can see exactly everything you need for your size. This pattern comes in sizes extra small through 5X. I'm making a size small in the video, but of course, if you're making a different size, you'll need to follow along because the stitch counts will be different, the row counts will be different. So just make sure you're following along with your size in the pattern. You're also going to need some stitch markers. We'll use that for just keeping our place when we are seaming up the sides, and then of course a yarn needle to weave in your ends when you're finished. Excuse like the background noise, those are my kids upstairs playing. So yeah, the video is also broken up into, I think I'll be breaking it up into about 4 or 5 different parts, so each video will just continue where the last one leaves off. For easy viewing and to just kind of make it a little bit easier to follow along with. So let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else you guys need to know. It's very easy once you get the hang of it. It's half double crochet stitch for almost the entire pattern. Do you want to come say hi?
Yes.
Say hi.
Hi.
This is Penny. Spider girl. But I think that is it. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have any questions. And again, I'll link to everything in the description, so it's free on my blog. And then I'll also have the PDF available in my Etsy shop, Ravelry shop, Love Crafts, all that stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the pattern. Thank you guys so much for watching and following along with me. If you guys like these tutorial videos, please subscribe, comment, like, and share with everyone so I can keep bringing you guys more tutorials. See you guys next time. To begin, you're going to need a fine weight yarn. I'm using Lion Brand's Oh Baby Organic Cotton, and this is just a weight of 2 yarn. And just be sure to check the pattern to see how many skeins you're going to need exactly. I have all the yardage and stuff listed there. And then you're also going to need a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. And then of course a yarn needle to weave in our ends. And then I also recommend stitch markers, so grab a few of those as well. So we'll be starting off with the back panel, and we're going to begin in the ribbing section. So start off, you can go ahead and make a slip knot, and then just insert your hook and pull tight. If you need a slower video on how to do a slip knot, I have one of those as well. And we're going to start off by working 25 foundation single crochet. So go ahead and chain 2. And then in that first chain that we made, that's where we will be inserting our hook. And you can put it wherever you prefer, whether that is the top loop right there of the chain or the back bump. It doesn't really matter as long as you insert it in that very first chain. So you can go ahead and put it in, and then we will be working our foundation stitches, which is basically just working a chain and the first row at the same time. So yarn over, pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull it through the first loop, yarn over, pull it through both loops, and that is one foundation single crochet. And then you can insert your hook in the little V right there that we just made. And then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through one loop, and then yarn over, pull through both loops. And then again, insert it into the little V at the bottom, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through one loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. So you can see if you rotate your work, it's making little V's, and that is where we are sticking our hook to make these stitches. And basically when we are inserting our hook and doing the yarn over, pull through, and then the yarn over, pull through one, that pull through one is the chain basically of the foundation single crochet. So you can just continue doing this and inserting your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through two, and just do this for the entire length of the first row. We will be doing this a total of 25 times, and this is the first row of our ribbing on the back panel. So just continue doing this until you have a total of 25 stitches. Okay, so now I have 25 foundation single crochet, and that completes row 1. You're going to chain 1 and then turn your work. And now we are starting off row 2 of the back panel. And for this row and for several more rows, we will be working in the back loop only. So instead of putting our hook through both the front loop and the back loop like you would for a normal stitch, like that, instead, we will be putting it in the back loop only, which is the loop furthest away from us. So in that very first single crochet stitch, insert your hook into the back loop only, and then yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over, pull through two. So that's one single crochet, and then we're going to do it again in the next stitch. In the back loop only, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. And we're just going to do this all the way across the row. So we are just making one single crochet stitch for every single stitch all the way across the row, working in the back loop only. And when you get to the end of the row, you should still have a total of 25 single crochet. So just do this all the way across. And then when you get to the end, you can chain 1 and then turn your work, and that completes row 2. And then we're just going to be doing the same exact thing on the way back. So in that very first single crochet, put your hook into the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two, and just work your single crochet stitches in the back loop only all the way across this row as well. And when you get to the end of this row, do the same thing, chain 1, turn, and then work 25 single crochet in the back loop only, back across, and then when you get to the end, chain 1, turn, and just keep repeating that over and over and over again. You're going to be working 25 single crochet, back loop only, chain 1, turn, for the total amount of rows that the pattern calls for. So depending on your size, that'll be a different amount of rows. I am making the size small, so I'll be working 98 rows of this ribbing. So just continue the same process, chaining 1 and turning and working in the back loop only for a total of as many rows as your size calls for. Okay, so now your ribbing should be complete, and you can see here it is pretty long, and I have a total of 98 rows for mine. And you'll want to again double check and make sure that you have the correct amount of rows. You can go back and count just to make sure before moving on. And then for this part, we are going to be starting the main body of the back panel. And for row 1, we'll be working our stitches into the end of every single row of the ribbing. So now that the work is rotated, we're going to chain 1, and then in that very same stitch, or that very end of the last row that we just made, is where we will be working our first stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook into the end of the first row, and then yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. That is 1 half double crochet stitch. And then we're going to do this all the way across the row. So you can see this is the end of row 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then we're going to do the same thing at the end of row 3 of the ribbing. Work your half double crochet. And I like to put my hook every other row. You'll notice that there's kind of a little gap where you're inserting your hook, and I like to put mine down a little bit further. You'll see here I'm going a little bit underneath just so that it doesn't leave a space or a hole. You can put your hook wherever you're most comfortable as long as you have 1 stitch for every single row. So just do this all the way across, 1 half double crochet stitch per every row of the ribbing. And then when you get to the end of this row, you should have the same amount of stitches as you do ribbing rows. So at the end of this, I will have 98 half double crochet stitches. So just do this all the way across. All right, so now we've reached the end of row 1, and I just wanted to point out that your work might look like it is puckering and that the row is wider than the ribbing. That is normal. It's supposed to be wider than the ribbing because the ribbing is tighter than the half double crochet rows. So don't worry about it. It will look normal once you keep going and adding and continuing to add rows. And if you want to, you can just kind of give your ribbing a stretch, just kind of loosen up those tight stitches a little bit, but it will work out in the end. So chain 1, turn your work, and now we're just going to be working half double crochet stitches back down. So 1 half double crochet in that very first stitch, and 1 half double crochet stitch in every single stitch all the way across the row. So just continue what you've been doing, except now you'll be working it into the actual stitch from the row below instead of the edges of the ribbing. So 1 half double crochet stitch all the way across to the end of the row. Okay, and when you get to the end of the row, you can just go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work. And then we're going to be doing the same thing on our way back, just working 1 half double crochet stitch per every stitch from the row below. Your stitch count will stay the same. And we'll be doing this for several rows. This is what we'll be doing for the rest of the back panel, is just working half double crochet rows. So for the size small, I did 56 rows of half double crochet, but again, make sure you double check the written pattern to see how many rows you need for your size. So you can just go ahead and continue with what we've been doing throughout the rest of the back panel. Okay, and once you're done with the back panel, you have to repeat that same process all over again for the front panel. So you can go ahead and re-watch what we just did if you need help again, but this is my front panel here, and this is what your front panel should look like after. So it's going to be partial of what we did from the back panel. So your front panel should have the same amount of stitches for the ribbing. You should have the same amount of rows for your ribbing. So you're just repeating the entire ribbing section of the back panel. And then you're also going to repeat part of the main body of the back panel for the front panel. So for the size small, which I am making, after I make the ribbing, I crocheted rows 1 through 29 of the back panel. So we're just repeating the same exact thing. And then once you reach row 29, or whatever row it specifies for your size in the pattern, then you can go ahead and stop and come back to this video and I will show you guys how to split the neckline. So your front panel will look exactly the same up until we start doing some shaping in the neck area. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so now my back panel is complete here, and then I am about halfway done with my front panel, as you can see here. And now we are going to be splitting the neckline, and we will be working on the right side or the right shoulder of the front panel now, if you're following along in the written pattern. So it's really easy to do this part. We're going to be doing the same thing as we've been doing. We're just gonna not work all the way across the row. So this starts off row 30 for the size small. You're going to chain 1 and then you're going to work 48 half double crochet stitches across. So if you are working a different size pattern, just be mindful that your stitch count will be different. We basically are taking the total stitch count of the previous row and subtracting 2 and then dividing by 2. So for the size small, I worked 48 half double crochet stitches, and then these 2 stitches right here in the center will be left unworked, and then the remaining stitches after that will be our left shoulder. But we are not to that section yet. Right now we're still on the right shoulder. So after that row 1, or that first row where we split off, you can chain 1 and turn, and then work 1 half double crochet stitch into each stitch all the way back across. You can say hello to my dog and a piece of cheese, thanks to my daughter. So go ahead and work 1 half double crochet stitch in each stitch all the way across. And then when you get to the other end, keep doing what you're doing. You can chain 1, turn, half double crochet back, chain 1, turn, half double crochet across, chain 1, turn, half double crochet, and do this for the total amount of rows that your size calls for. You're doing a size small like me, that is 16 more rows of the half double crochet across. And now we'll be doing some shaping at the neckline. So in the first 7 stitches, for this row, which is row 47 for a size small, we'll be working slip stitches. So you can see I just slip stitched in that very first stitch, and then yarn over, slip stitch into the second, insert your hook, yarn over, slip stitch in the third, slip stitch in the fourth, slip stitch in the fifth, and in the sixth, and in the seventh. So we've slip stitched 7 stitches across, and now we will begin our normal half double crochet stitches. So after that 7th slip stitch, you can work a half double crochet into the 8th stitch, and then just work 1 half double crochet stitch into every single remaining stitch across. So we will be decreasing our stitch count by 7. With this row, I'm not counting the slip stitches in the stitch count, just counting the half double crochet. So just make sure you're following along with the written pattern and you check your stitch count here for your size. And then once you get to the end of the row, just chain 1 and turn. And now we are on row 48 for the size small. And we will just be working 1 half double crochet stitch into every single stitch across until you reach the last 2 half double crochet stitches of this row. So just work your half double crochet stitches, and when we reach these last 2 stitches right before the slip stitch section, we'll be decreasing those together. So I've worked all the way across, and you can see I have 2 half double crochet stitches left. I'm just decreasing those 2 together. So yarn over, insert your hook into that first one, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through all 4 loops on your hook. And that is a half double crochet 2 together, or a decrease. So now our row has decreased by 1 stitch. And then we're going to do that same thing on the way back. So this is row 49 for the size small. And we're going to work a decrease, so half double crochet 2 together in those first 2 stitches. and then work 1 half double crochet stitch into every remaining stitch across the row. So again, we are decreasing by 1 stitch with this row, so our stitch count will go down by 1. So just work your half double crochet stitches down. When you reach the end, chain 1, turn, and I will meet you back down here for another decrease. Okay, so now we're at our last 2 half double crochet stitches. Work another half double crochet 2 together. Chain 1 and turn your work. And then just do the same thing again. Work another decrease in those first 2 stitches. And then work 1 half double crochet stitch all the way down. So 1 stitch in each all the way across. And then chain 1 and turn and work your stitches all the way back down. And now we're doing another decrease. So in those last 2 stitches, half double crochet 2 together, chain 1, turn. And again, work another decrease. And then just work your normal half double crochet stitches all the way back down the row. And then when you get to the end, chain 1, turn, work your way back down for another decrease. Okay, now we're back here again. Do another decrease with the last 2 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. Work another decrease. Do your half double crochet stitches all the way across the row. Chain 1, turn, work your stitches back. And this time there's no decreasing, just work 1 half double crochet stitch in every stitch back. You can see we're now back here at the decrease area, and that was the final row. So you're just going to pull a good amount of yarn through so that we can use the tail of yarn for seaming our shoulders later on. So just pull an extra amount of yarn and then go ahead and cut it, and then just pull it through the loop. And we'll use this for seaming later on. So depending on what size you're making, your row count will be different and your stitch count will also be different. This is the size small, and I have a total of 56 rows from just above the ribbing all the way up to the top of the shoulder. So now we'll be doing the same thing, but on the opposite side. Okay, so make a slip knot, and now we will be joining our yarn. Make sure your panel is right side up. So the finished shoulder that we just did is on the right hand side. And then in those center 2 stitches, you're going to be skipping them and slip stitching into the 3rd stitch. So there should be 2 unworked stitches in between the right and the left shoulder and neckline area. And then you'll just join with a slip stitch, chain 1, work 1 half double crochet into that same stitch, and work 1 half double crochet into each stitch all the way across the row. So this is the exact same thing as this first shoulder, except it's just flipped. It's opposite when you're reading the pattern. So repeat these half double crochet rows here where there's no decreasing. Work your stitches across, chain 1, turn, work your half double crochet back, chain 1, turn, and just repeat this section like you had for the first shoulder. It should be rows 30 through 46 for the size small. So just repeat the same amount of rows on this side that you have on the first side. Make sure you're following along with the written pattern just to make sure you have the right row count for your size. Okay, and now we're at row 47 of the left shoulder. So it's the same thing as the right shoulder. We're going to be leaving those 7 stitches unworked. It's just flipped. So instead of slip stitching, you're just going to work your half double crochet stitches across. So chain 1 and work 1 half double crochet stitch in each stitch across. And then when you get to the end of the row, you should leave 7 stitches unworked. So now, since it's flipped, we don't have to slip stitch over. We're just leaving those worked or leaving those unworked, and then chain 1 and turn. And this is where we start doing the decreasing. So now once again, you're going to work your half double crochet 2 together. So you're going to decrease, and then you're going to work your half double crochet stitches across the rest of the row, chain 1, turn. When you get back, you're going to do your decrease, chain 1, do another decrease. We're just doing the exact same thing, repeating rows 48 and 49 of the size small in the written pattern. Remember, it'll be a different row depending on what size you're making, but that is all referenced in the written pattern if you're following along with that. So just go ahead and repeat the same exact thing, work your stitches down, and then work them back. And when you get to the last 2 stitches here, work your decrease, and then chain 1, work another decrease, work your stitches down, chain 1, work them back, work your decrease. So just repeat the same exact thing. You'll have the same exact amount of rows as the first shoulder here, and everything is exactly the same, and you're only decreasing on the inside here of the neckline. So repeat that same process that you did on the first side and just do that same thing here now. And again, you'll be decreasing by 1 half double crochet stitch with every row, and your stitch count should be the same as the first shoulder when you are finished. Okay, so I am all finished with my opposite shoulder. So both sides are exactly the same, just flipped, since we want those decreases at the neckline. And we're going to be doing the same thing as we did on the first shoulder. You want to leave a nice long tail so that you can use it for sewing your shoulders together. So go ahead and pull a long tail through, and then cut it and go ahead and tie off. And then we'll be using both of these for seaming, and I will be showing you guys how to do that in the next video. This is the end of part 1, so make sure you watch out for part 2 to continue on with the pattern. So just go ahead and cut your yarn, and then I will meet you in the video part 2 to seam it and continue on with the rest of the hoodie.